Welcome everyone to this first interview at the discovery of the A-Shock tradition, a spiritual path whose roots go back to ancient Persia and comes from a millennium tradition. Today we have the pleasure to interview Francesca. She is one of the highest degree of the school. Welcome, Francesca.
Hi, Julia.
Thank you so much for taking the time for this interview.
Thanks to you.
Francesca, let's start immediately. Let's go back to that day 8 years ago when you first attended the A-Shock lesson for the first time, and also when you met the one that was to be your master. Was that atmosphere familiar somehow to you, or was it something apparently very far from you?
I perfectly remember my first A-Shock lesson. I was very curious and shy too. I perfectly remember the atmosphere. When I get into the room, something deep inside of me immediately recognize that atmosphere as familiar. Was for me, it was like be at home. Was a really powerful emotion and sensation. And I remember a thought that came up to my mind in that moment, and I was just doing a simple exercise, pranotherapy. I was doing pranotherapy for my first time, and I thought, oh wow, I can do this once a week, and for me was simply amazing.
Wow, that is very beautiful. Was it a breaking point that gave you the push to take a leap of faith, or were you just driven by curiosity?
8 years ago, I was a person not interested at all in spirituality. I never read an Osho book or something connected to spirituality at all. I was a really different person from now. So for me, my breaking point was a really tough period that it lasted about 1 year and a half. And in that period, my mind and my body were really sick. So for me was a really tough period. And but that pain, that suffering forced me to really and truly look inside. So that period completely changed my perception of life. So that was my breaking point.
Okay. It is said that we desire what we fear the most. What was at that time your biggest fear, and then your biggest desire? And also, did your desires change along the way?
At first, my biggest desire was to become a master, an IDOI, of course. And obviously, in the beginning, I was full of fear, of insecurities. But at that point, I was not so aware of them because I was just full of joy and happiness because I can do what I truly love. So, but I can say that probably my biggest fear was to live up my desire. Now, my biggest fear and my biggest desire are exactly the same, because my biggest fear is to dissolve myself completely and my biggest desire is the same.
Wow. Is there an aspect of you that has not changed, perhaps, and that is still your guiding light inside you?
A lot of aspects of me, of course, changed during the years, but I think an aspect of me that is my guiding light now and before is my passion.
Okay.
My passion is still the same. My deep love for Ashok is still the same. And you know, the sensation to be at the right place in the right time. Yeah. So it's the sensation that I have when I practice some exercises or when I give lessons, and is the same from the beginning to now, the same.
It's a beautiful guiding light, I would say. Which was your strongest pushback that made you feel hesitant in moving forward, if you had one?
My strongest pushback, I think, was the first time I realized my heart was closed not just to embrace our people, but to embrace myself. So in that moment, I remember perfectly the moment that I realized that my heart was really closed to my insecurities, my fragilities, and was really difficult that moment for me. And for a while, I doubt to be able to be really welcoming to those parts.
Right, to move forward. Francesca, you have now reached the 8th degree of guide, a major turning point in which you become a point of reference also for the lower levels and for the community. How does it feel to be a guide of a spiritual path, and what are the challenges?
Being a guide on Ashok, it means, like you said before, be a reference point for the lower levels. So that it's one challenge, of course. But I think the beautiful things to approach this new grade, it's to start to work with a brand new energy, that is the energy of the awareness, the energy of the soul. And so that is the second challenge. And I think the third one is balancing the energy that you give to you, to your training, and to others. So find a balance from these two things.
How is your relationship with your masters right now, that in Asia we call Haide Hoi? And is this different somehow from the beginning?
The relationship with my masters, my Haide Hois, changed a lot, of course, during the years. They are my biggest reference point. And in the beginning, I was really intimidating by them. Of course, I was shy. I was shy, but full of question. So at that point, my relationship was just like that. But now it's different. It's a smooth and fluid relationship. Basically, because I am free of a lot of inner dynamics that block me before.
What is your definition of spirituality?
My definition of spirituality. For me, spirituality is rediscovering ourselves. So reconnected with who we truly are. For me, spirituality is just like that. There's a beautiful sentence in A Shock Path that is, a shock is not faith, but is a constant practice. And I love that sentence because it just explains what spirituality is for me. It's not believing in something, it's practicing, and is something to experienced.
Right. A-Shock organizes summer camps, lessons, seminars, and which is the experience that made you feel at ease the most, and which instead has been a real challenge for you?
Lessons, seminar, summer camp are experiences that are all beautiful, of course, and challenging in a certain way. For me, the most challenging one, I think, is the summer camp, the summer community, especially, that we organized for 3 years in Sardinia, in Rebecu. That is a really special place for me. It is the most challenging one because you are constantly in contact with your spirit, of course, 24 hours per 7 days, and you are constantly helping people day and night, and there's a lot of practical things to do, like the preparation of the food and the purification of the food, of course. So I think it's the fullest experience, but it's the most challenging one too.
Thank you. Well, I have 2 words for you. The astral projections.
Yeah.
If someone had asked you 10 years ago what you thought of it, what would you have said?
If you asked me 10 years ago, I said, I don't know. Yeah, I was, like I said before, I was a person that was not interested at all in spirituality. So 10 years ago, astral projection was like, I don't know what you are talking about.
Imagination.
No, not imagining anything. I start to heard something of that when I began A-Shock, but before it was nothing for me. I never heard about it.
I guess that now things have changed. As a matter of fact, in A-Shock, you start working on it when you reach the 6th degree initiate. What is the physical and mental feeling of the astral projections, Francesca?
Yeah, obviously now the things are really changed. It's different for me. It's a couple of years that astral projection is part of my daily routine. It's really natural. So the physical and mental reflection of the astral projection is that the mind is involved because is involved in translation. So the mind translates what you experienced on the astral plane. The body is really relaxed, and you can have some reflection on your body when you're traveling the astral plane. Of course, the body is involved too in some ways. we don't leave the body with all our energy, with all our consciousness. So a bit of energy and consciousness is still in the body. So you have the sensation of the body when you experience the traveling on astral plane.
Okay, very interesting. Falling from above is the first sensation you feel when you arrive on Earth. Distant voices echo heavily with your consciousness and test the mettle of even the bravest spirits. Very clear plans emerge inside you, but all you can think of are those voices. Each of them has made this journey before you. And you ask yourself, what awaits me there? You are in a place that you find hard to call home, but you know very well that the earth is your test, perhaps the greatest one, a place that even the best among us fear to look at. This is an extract from the book Heavenly Home, La Dimora Celeste, written by Hidehoi David Seymour, your master. These words evoke not only the astral projections, but also past lives. What is your personal experience on that, Francesca?
Past lives was for me the matter that I was most attracted to.
Wow.
When I start to practice A-Shock, the things that I want to experience more was past lives. I was really attracted to, and for me, in the beginning, was a tough process, because when you start to remember your past life, you meet in the beginning your pain. So embrace and say to this pain, yeah, you are really welcome. It's difficult in the beginning, but then you find out that that pain is really a true master for you, because that pain teach you to truly love yourself. Whatever you've been, whatever you do in your past lives, that pain, that suffering really teach you to love yourself as much as you can.
Do you think that it is possible to take a spiritual journey without going through past lives?
Yeah, I think it's possible. Remembering your past life, it's a choice, it's a pleasure. And for me, it's one of the most powerful instruments for our inner knowledge. And in my experience, in a certain point of the path, it's natural go through past life, but it's not for everyone. It's just my experience.
Considering all the things that you have experienced so far, do you have more questions or more answer at this stage?
Difficult question. No, I have a lot of questions, of course. I have few answers, but I'm totally aware that my answer can be totally changed in an hour or tomorrow, because more you find out of yourself, more your perspective is open, and your answer change in every moment. So
it's difficult to say.
Yeah, really difficult to say.
Well, talking about questions and answers, what is the question that you suggest to ask oneself when one feels that there is something more in life, you know.
I think the easiest but the most difficult question in the world, that is who I am, but not just who I am and I'm saying, okay, I'm a woman, and
Yes.
I think who I am, and just close your eyes and listen. Just close your eyes and listen. Is if some answer or some perception or an intuition comes up.
And that brings us to the end of our intense conversation. To conclude, I would like to jump into the past once again, back to that day 8 years ago. Imagine for a moment that the first person that you met that day was the present you. What do you think the past you and the present you would have said to each other?
I think that if I could met myself of 8 years ago, the first thing I'd like to do is hug myself, old Francesca, and I would like to tell her to don't be afraid, that there's nothing wrong inside of her, and that to follow her dreams badly until the end, because it's worth it. So that's the things that I'd like to tell to my old me.